Have you ever tried reading a book in a language you're learning? You buy a beautiful novel, you make a cup of tea, you open the first page, and after just 2 paragraphs, you feel completely exhausted. Why? Because you're stopping to look up every single word in a dictionary. The tea gets cold, your head starts to hurt, and you eventually close the book, feeling like you failed.
Does this sound familiar? You are definitely not alone. Many people think that reading is just a passive way to pass the time. But if you want a book to actually improve your language skills, you need to change your strategy. Today, I am going to share 5 powerful tips and unconventional ideas on how to read books in any language, stay motivated, and actually see real progress in just a couple of weeks. Make sure to listen until the end, because the 4th method will completely change the way you think about learning vocabulary. Let's get into it.
Let's start with the most common mistake. When people decide to read in a foreign language, they often want to look smart. They choose Shakespeare or Charles Dickens for English, or Victor Hugo for French. Please, stop doing this. This is language suicide. Why would you spend your time learning words from the 19th century? Words that even native speakers don't use in everyday conversations anymore. You don't need old-fashioned language. You need modern, alive, and useful vocabulary. So, what should you choose instead? My advice is to go for modern nonfiction or light detective thrillers. Think about books on psychology, motivation, or time management. Nonfiction authors usually write in a very clear, direct, and structured way without long, complicated descriptions. On the other hand, detective stories have a natural hook. You simply want to find out who the killer is, so you keep turning the pages automatically. But how do you know if a book is at the right level for you? You can use a very simple test called the 5-finger rule. Open any random page in the middle of the book and start reading. Every time you see a word you don't know at all, count it. If you finish the page and you only found 1 or 2 unknown words, the book is too easy for you. If you found 3 or 4 words, it is the perfect balance. This is where you will make progress. But if you found 5 or more unknown words on a single page, put the book away for now. It is too difficult, and it will only make you feel frustrated. The second biggest problem is that we read foreign books the same way we read textbooks in school. You see an unfamiliar word, you stop, you open a translation app, you write the word down, and only then do you continue reading. This is not reading, this is psychological torture. When you do this, you lose the story, you lose the rhythm, and you lose all the joy of the book. Instead, I highly recommend a method I call dirty reading. The main goal of reading is not to translate 100% of the text. Your goal is to understand the context. Try to read in big blocks, like full paragraphs or even entire pages. If you meet a strange word, but you still understand that the main character is walking down the street and feeling sad, just keep going. Do not touch your phone. Our brain is a very powerful computer. If the same word appears 5 or 6 times in different chapters, your brain will eventually guess its meaning based on the situation, without any dictionary. And because you solved this little puzzle yourself, you will remember that word forever. Only use a translator when you are completely lost and cannot understand the main plot of the chapter. This next life hack is perfect for anyone who says, I can read and understand text perfectly, but I cannot understand native speakers when they talk. Or maybe you have the opposite problem. We can solve this by connecting 2 senses at the same time, your eyes and your ears. I call this the sandwich technique. All you need to do is get a physical or electronic book, and then find the exact same audiobook version. Make sure the audiobook is recorded by a professional native speaker with good pronunciation. When you sit down to read, put your headphones on, play the audio, and follow the text with your eyes at the same time. This is an incredible tool for 2 main reasons. First, the narrator sets the speed for you. You physically cannot stop to translate every single word, which forces you to improve your reading fluency. Second, you immediately connect how a word looks on paper with how it actually sounds in real life. You will never have that annoying problem where you know a word perfectly well when you read it, but completely fail to recognize it in a conversation. Now, let's talk about vocabulary. What should you do with the words you actually want to learn? If you just write them down in a long list in a notebook, let's be honest, you will probably never open that notebook again. Here is a much more interactive and effective method. Use sticky notes. When you find a really great, useful word or phrase that you want to start using in your own speech, write it down on a sticky note. But here is the golden rule: never write an isolated word. Always write the whole sentence, or at least a part of the sentence, where you found it. For example, instead of just writing the word asterisk, reluctantly, asterisk and its translation, write down the full phrase. Asterisk, he reluctantly agreed to go to the party. Asterisk. Put these sticky notes directly on the pages of the book or on your desk. Our memory does not work well with random lists of words. It works with context, pictures, and emotions. When you look at that sentence later, you will instantly remember the scene from the book, the emotion of the character, and the word will stay in your memory naturally without any boring memorization. My final and most important piece of advice for today is this. If a book feels boring or too difficult, just drop it. Seriously, there is no reason to force yourself to finish a book just because you think you have to. If you are not enjoying it after 20 or 30 pages, close it, put it back on the shelf, and choose something else. Reading should be a hobby and a pleasure, not an unpleasant duty. Before you go, let's start a little book club in the comments below. Tell me, what was the last book you tried to read in a foreign language? At what point did you give up, and why? Or, if you succeeded, what was the first book you managed to read from cover to cover? I will read all your comments and reply to the most interesting ones. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We learn languages here easily and without any boring rules. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next video. Thank you for listening, happy reading, and see you next time.